The metallic click of a bolt sliding into place echoed through the armory, sharp against the otherwise quiet hum of fluorescent lights. She didn't even flinch. For her, the sound was routine, comforting, even. To most soldiers, it was just another maintenance chore. But for Sergeant Elena Ramirez, cleaning rifles was more than a job. It was therapy. She worked in the shadows, tucked away from the adrenaline and glory of the front lines. Her role was simple: keep the weapons that others relied on spotless, reliable, and ready. She was the one behind the scenes, the one no one clapped for when the mission was done. But she never complained. She had made peace with her place in the world, or so she thought. That peace shattered the day the sniper walked in. He was tall, rugged, carrying himself with the quiet authority of someone who had seen too much and survived it anyway. His name was Captain Daniel Cole, a decorated Special Forces sniper known across bases for one thing: impossible shots. Rumors of his 3,800-meter confirmed kill had become almost legend. Soldiers whispered his name like he was carved out of steel and myth. When he entered the armory, Elena barely looked up. Another operator, another rifle in need of her hands. But he studied her with the sharp eyes of a man who missed nothing. His gaze lingered on the care she took, the way she cradled the weapon as if it were alive, the precision of her movements, the silence of her focus. "You handle that rifle like you were born for it," Cole finally said, breaking the quiet. Elena shrugged, not even glancing up. "I just make sure it doesn't jam when it counts. The shooting part's for you guys." Cole smirked. "Funny, because from the way you handle that bolt, I'd swear you've got more in you than just cleaning." It was meant as a casual comment, maybe even a compliment. But for Elena, it struck deeper. Once, before the world had labeled her support staff, she had dreamed of being the one pulling the trigger. But dreams get buried fast when bureaucracy and circumstance block the path. So she bit back the memory, muttered, "Dreams don't keep rifles firing. Elbow grease does." Cole tilted his head, intrigued. He didn't push, not yet, but as he turned to leave, he tossed something over his shoulder. "Tell you what, Ramirez, someday, I'll take you out to the range. Let's see if that steady hand of yours can do more than clean." Elena chuckled under her breath, shaking her head. But something inside her stirred, a quiet fire she thought had died years ago. The opportunity came faster than she expected. A week later, Cole showed up again, this time with a challenge in his eyes. "Range is clear. You and me, Ramirez. No excuses." She tried to laugh it off, but he didn't move, didn't blink. He wasn't joking, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she followed. The range stretched into a desert horizon, heat shimmering over endless sand. Cole had already set up the Barrett .50 calories on its bipod, the beast of a rifle gleaming under the sun. He gestured to it. "This one doesn't forgive mistakes. But I've got a feeling you won't make any." Elena hesitated. She wasn't trained for this, not officially, anyway. But muscle memory is a strange thing. Her father had been a hunter, teaching her the art of stillness, the rhythm of breath, the poetry of a trigger pull before she was old enough to carry the rifle herself. Those lessons lived inside her, buried but unforgotten. She lay down behind the rifle, cheek pressed to the stock, her eye against the scope. The world narrowed, the desert horizon slicing into sharp focus. "Targets at 4,300 meters, Cole said, his tone both daring and gentle. "That's beyond what most snipers even dream of. Hell, I've never hit it clean. Myself." Elena froze, pulling her head away from the scope. 4,300. That's not a shot, it's science fiction. Cole smiled faintly. So prove science wrong. Her heart pounded. She steadied her breathing, let the memory of her father's voice guide her. Slow inhale. Gentle squeeze. Don't force it. The rifle will do the work if you let it. The crosshairs danced, then settled. She felt the trigger tighten beneath her finger. And then, the shot cracked like thunder, echoing through the emptiness. 4 seconds of silence. Then the metallic clang of a distant target answered back. Cole's jaw actually dropped. You just hit it." Elena blinked, almost disbelieving herself. She looked back through the scope. The impact mark was there, clear as day. Her hands trembled, not from nerves, but from awakening. "Try it again," Cole said, voice hushed, reverent. She did. Another shot. Another hit. The impossible was becoming repeatable. By the time she'd fired the fourth round, Cole wasn't smirking anymore. He wasn't joking. He was staring at her like he'd just uncovered a secret the world wasn't ready for. Dash dash dash. Word spread quickly. The armorer who wasn't supposed to shoot had outshot one of the best snipers alive. Soldiers crowded the range in disbelief, whispering, watching, cheering when she landed another hit. But with attention came doubt. Commanders scoffed. Luck, they said. Flukes happen. Others muttered that a woman in her position had no business trying to prove herself on the range. Elena felt the weight of those voices, but Cole never wavered. He became her quiet mentor, dragging her out to practice whenever time allowed, pushing her limits, challenging her precision, showing her that this wasn't luck, it was talent, refined by discipline. Yet the real test came weeks later, when her base came under siege. Enemy fire pinned down a convoy outside the wire, and their position was being shredded by a hostile sniper nearly 3 miles away. The base scrambled. Cole was out on mission. No one else had the range or training to counter the threat. Panic set in, and then someone looked at her. Elena, you can do it. She froze, rifle heavy in her hands. She wasn't a sniper. She wasn't a hero. She was just an armorer, a ghost in the background. But then she remembered the clang of that first impossible hit. The look in Cole's eyes. The dream she had buried so long ago. She steadied her breath. The target appeared in her scope. Distant, small, deadly. She slowed her heartbeat, let everything else fade. And when she pulled the trigger, the world held its breath. The hostile sniper dropped. The convoy escaped. And Elena Ramirez, once invisible, once overlooked, became the soldier no one could ignore. Dash dash dash. When Cole returned and heard what happened, he found her sitting quietly in the armory again, cleaning the same rifles she always had. You saved lives today, he said softly. You've done what most of us never will. Elena didn't look up, she just smiled faintly. Guess I'm more than just elbow grease. For the first time in years, she wasn't just keeping dreams buried, she was living them. The base never looked at Elena Ramirez the same way again. Overnight, the quiet armorer became a legend whispered about in the mess hall, in the barracks, even in the commander's office. Some spoke with awe, others with envy, and a few with resentment. Soldiers who once walked past her without a glance now stopped, staring as though she carried an invisible crown. But Elena didn't feel like a legend. She still woke up before dawn, still scrubbed oil and sand from weapons, still kept to the armory's shadows. Yet something had shifted inside her. The rifle wasn't just steel and wood anymore, it was a calling. And deep down, she knew she couldn't ignore it forever. Captain Daniel Cole returned 2 days after the siege. He found her in the range, long after hours, lined up behind the Barrett .50 with a stack of empty brass at her side. You've been busy, he said, his voice carrying a grin. Elena lowered the rifle. Sweat glistened on her face, her dark hair clinging to her cheek. I don't want it to have been luck. Cole's grin softened into something more serious. He crouched beside her, his eyes level with hers. It wasn't luck, and you know it. You've got a gift, Ramirez. The question is, what are you going to do with it? That question haunted her for days. Dash dash dash. The resistance. The moment Elena requested transfer to sniper training, the pushback hit like a storm. You're too old to start over. You don't have the right clearance. You're an armorer, not an operator. Stay in your lane. Her commanding officer's voice was the harshest. Ramirez, don't let one shot make you think you're something you're not. We don't gamble lives on flukes. The words burned, but she bit her tongue. She had learned long ago that shouting never changed minds, it only fed their doubts. So instead, she trained in silence. Every night after her duties ended, she went back to the range. She studied wind charts, memorized ballistics tables, and listened to Cole break down the art of long-distance shooting until she could recite the formulas in her sleep. Cole believed in her, but belief alone wasn't enough. She had to prove herself again. Dash dash dash. The test. The opportunity came in the desert during a joint training exercise with international forces. Snipers from around the world gathered, each one eager to showcase skill. Targets stretched across ridges, some so far they looked no larger than a speck of dust. Cole pulled strings to get Elena on the roster, though it wasn't official. To the others, she was just the armorer tagging along. Many laughed. The first shots rang out. Soldiers from every nation took their turns, striking targets at 2,000, 2,500, even 3,000 meters. The crowd clapped politely. Then Cole nodded toward her. "Your turn." Elena stepped forward. Whispers followed. "She's not trained. She doesn't belong here. This is embarrassing." She ignored them. She lay behind the Barrett, steadied her breath, and lined her scope on the farthest target, 4,300 meters. The very distance Cole had once dared her to attempt. The desert wind howled. She adjusted her dope, calculated the drop, let instinct guide her. The rifle roared. Silence swallowed the air. Then came the distant clang. Hit. Gasps erupted. Disbelief rippled through the line. She reloaded, fired again. Another hit. By the third shot, even the skeptics had stopped talking. By the fourth, the whispers had shifted into applause. Elena Ramirez, no longer just the armorer, stood from the rifle with the desert sun blazing behind her, and for the first time, the world saw her as she truly was, a sniper. The mission that changed everything. It wasn't long before war called again. A special forces team was trapped in hostile territory, cut off and surrounded. Extraction was impossible until enemy spotters and gunners, positioned nearly 3 miles away, were neutralized. Cole's team was deployed, and this time, Elena was with them. When they reached the overwatch point, Cole looked at her. "It's your shot, Ramirez." Her hands trembled as she set up the rifle. She had never fired in combat beyond that one desperate siege. The lives of men she had never met now rested on her trigger finger. The first target slid into her scope. She remembered her father's voice. She remembered the clang of her first impossible hit. She squeezed. Impact. Target down. The second fell moments later. The third tried to move, but Elena's calm precision found him before he vanished. One by one, the threats disappeared, until the trapped team had their window to escape. The radio crackled with their voices. "We're clear. Whoever's watching over us, you saved our lives." Elena exhaled, lowering the rifle. Her hands were steady now. She wasn't hiding anymore. Aftermath. Back at base, her name spread like wildfire. Not just as the armorer who had once cleaned rifles, but as the sniper who had hit where legends missed. She was invited to official sniper training, not because she begged for it, but because they could no longer deny her. Cole found her again in the armory, her hands once more scrubbing carbon off a bolt carrier. "You know," he said, leaning against the doorway, "you don't have to clean everyone else's rifles anymore." Elena smiled faintly. "I don't mind. Reminds me where I came from." Cole nodded, respect shining in his eyes. "And reminds the rest of us never to underestimate you."